Mark Levin was on C-SPAN's Book TV, and someone called in to ask him how exactly his books get on the bestseller list, and implied that some shady, fraudulent activity was going on. Let's watch.
The Koch brothers are the ones that fund the Heritage Foundation, which pays for half of this guy's commercials. And they're the ones that fund other organizations that buy his books that create them as bestsellers, and then they give them away because nobody would really want to spend the money on them.
Number one, the Koch brothers don't fund anything that I do. Number two, no groups buy my books.
So there, Mark Levin making clear that no, that's not, people are just going out and buying them. It's not fraudulent, book clubs aren't buying them, it's not bulk buying, there's nothing shady or fraudulent going on. But unfortunately for Mark Levin, that's not the case. In just the last quarter of 2013, the Senate Conservatives Fund PAC spent $427,000 to buy copies of his 2009 book, Liberty and Tyranny. Now, I don't know exactly how much they paid for each copy, but you can rest assured that's a lot of them. And very easily, considering how few books are sold in America, that can push you up the bestseller list. And so the idea that nobody's doing it, no, just in one quarter, one organization could massively shift how influential his book is seen to be by the public and by the people who manage these bestseller lists. Now, I have no intention of specifically targeting Mark Levin, but this is a part of a bigger trend that I do want to spotlight here. This is not the only case of conservative, either politician or media figures' books being bought in bulk to make it appear that they're more popular than they actually are. Politico did some great reporting on Mitt Romney. Now, he had a book called No Apology, The Case for American Greatness. And at one point, he was requiring that as a form of payment for him to speak at universities, at organizations and things like that, they would have to spend huge amounts of money just to buy copies of his book. $25,000, $50,000 for each individual organization, for each school that he gave a speech at. And so he gets paid, which is great for him, but also it appears that his book is much more popular than it is. But it's not just Mitt Romney. Sarah Palin, her PAC, Sarah PAC, spent $63,000 to buy copies of Going Rogue. Now, in the case of Sarah Palin, I think it's immediately apparent that they use the high sales figures of their book to make it seem as if they're more relevant than they actually are, more important, more persuasive than they actually are. And yet she's taking money that was donated for her to give to other conservative politicians and using it to make her seem more important, to pump up her apparent importance. And Coulter, in particular, she's benefited from this more than perhaps anyone else, although I imagine O'Reilly probably pretty competitive. The Conservative Books Club at one point was giving away copies of her book Godless if you bought 2 other books. And that means that for all of these people that took advantage of this little giveaway, those books, it made it seem as if they were being bought, but they were in fact just being passed out. The Conservative Books Club is perhaps one of the worst perpetrators of this. They routinely buy huge amounts of books from conservative media figures, politicians, and in the end you get the false impression by looking at bestseller lists that you see all these conservative names. Well, apparently the average book buying person in America must be conservative, right? That seems contrary to what we know about their habits and hobbies and things like that. But no, you look at the bestseller list, that's the impression you get. But unfortunately, more often than not, it is an entirely false impression.